So Julie asks, well, wait, let's see. There were a couple questions. Hold on a second. Mira asks, uh, does the COVID vaccine actually turn you into a cat girl asking for a friend?
So not that I know of.
Okay.
I wished. It would be a lot more like, yeah, no, a lot more interesting, I'm sure. Oh, good Lord. Oh, the COVID vaccine has been a nightmare and a blessing at the exact same time. But it's all good.
What's the nightmare portion? Just the amount of volume and all the questions?
Like the logistics and the questions. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's like we want to make sure all everyone's questions get taken care of. But when you only have so many limited amount of staff and you're trying to do normal pharmacy practice at the exact same time, and you get like this thrusted great upon like this responsibility upon all of pharmacy, and it's like, okay, guys, figure it out. Good luck. We're going to ship you vaccine, and you got to follow these certain guidelines. We're like, okay. And so, pharmacy is really good about adapting. And I think pharmacy, independent pharmacy for that matter, has done an extraordinarily good job. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Jesse, the other pharmacist that are my brother at the pharmacy, he's the one that enacted the scheduling tool. And so we were on like kind of one of the first pharmacies to start doing a scheduling tool to make sure everything was like lined up. Got our website all decked out with COVID information and everything. So we've done pretty good to make sure like we've used the maximum amount of like vaccine and make sure all the maximum amount of groups got taken care of without like bending the rules too much.
Okay. So yeah, was it difficult to deal with all of those, the logistics of who could get the vaccine at what time? Were there stages of that, or did they kind of, was it clear and open?
No, for Arkansas, there were stages that, kept on getting bumped up, bumped up, bumped up with
Okay.
like, oh, we're going to break up the stages into like sub stages and everything else. It got crazy. But yeah, no, for the most part, I don't know. Like I said, it's a blessing because it's like, it's a good way for pharmacy to like help the community and take care of people and kind of be once again the go-to source and like the go-to healthcare provider.
Mm,
But at the exact time, it's just like it is a lot of work.
yeah.
It's a lot of
Well, and Jesse mentions that it's been a misinformation nightmare. What are some of the key things that you've had to kind of fight back against with that?
Misinformation is like a lot of people are like twisting like what like categories could go first and whatnot, and
Mm,
like trying to like jump ahead. Like once it's funny because at the beginning it's like, okay, we're going to allow people to sign up online, and which is like, okay, that sounds like a really good thing. They check a box that say they agree that they qualify in one of the categories, and when they submit their like qualifying documentation, but they do not qualify at all. And so we're spending even extra time going back and like canceling their appointments and opening the appointment slots up and yada yada yada. And then it's like a lot of like so many cooks in the kitchen for Arkansas.
mm.
Like I feel like there's not one like direct leader saying this is the way we're doing it and this is how it's going to happen. You have like four or five people who are trying to like control everything, and it's like very much like a buddy buddy system in Arkansas, and it just got out of control, I think, a little bit faster than it should have. So,
Oh. And what kind of volume are you doing with that? How many vaccines are you doing in a typical day?
and about, so we normally get about 100 vaccine for initial doses each week, and then but they also will get shipped second doses as well. So we're doing anywhere from probably 200 to 300 vaccines a week. So,
Okay.
mhm.
Jeannie asks, what are the biggest or most desperate needs you encounter with transgender folks in the trans community of the people that you serve? What are some of their biggest needs that they come to you with?
Information and just general like where are resources at?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even like pre-transition with me, like as a healthcare provider, it's like I should be able to easily find like where resources are at.
Yes.
I had to dig and hunt on the web forever trying to figure out what information I could rack up in Arkansas about where's the HRT providers at. Like I could find up like all I was finding was like old articles about Janet Cathy, God bless her, when she was at UAMS, and she's not even at UAMS anymore. She's at Planned Parenthood, and Rachel's at UAMS. And so finally, it's like I'm just gonna call the women's center at UAMS, and we'll just see what happens. It's gonna be an awkward conversation. We're just gonna get it done. And so So I did. They got me where I needed to. I was able to make an appointment after an awkward like 5 to 10 minutes, and we're good. But that's really it. It's kind of like finding the resources and finding the care and finding where to go and saying it's okay. You know, because for as HRT is, I mean, there's not many permanent changes with taking HRT. Going male to female, there's breast growth. I mean, breast growth is permanent. So, I mean, if you at the end of the day, if you want to have it removed, you have to have it surgically removed. Now, as for going female to male, the biggest permanent change is voice dropping. I mean, once that voice drops, it doesn't go back up. So,
Hmm.
that being said, you can do vocal therapy and just raise your pitch naturally, or you can do, surgery and that will raise it, but none of those are guaranteed. So,
Yeah. That's a thing that I wanted to ask you about earlier, and I forgot. Thank you for bringing that up again. Your voice sounds very feminine. How did you get to that level with your voice, and how much time did it take you?
I really started working at it probably 3 to 4 months in. Once again, how the dice roll in my category. So my brother's Jesse, his wife Erica Pruitt is a voice, no, like oh my gosh, a speech pathologist student who's actually finishing up her master's.
Oh,
And I know, I'm like, how lucky can a girl get? But and she literally just did the TLC program at UAMS with Dr. Gregory Robinson, who actually had it's like a trans like voice therapy session,
wow.
like group
Hmm.
whatnot. So she had like all these like sheets and worksheets and everything else for like training and whatnot. I did that for several weeks with her, and then finally I got with Dr. Robinson and started doing the group therapy. But I guess honestly, what I feel like is like helped the most is actually getting back into work and answering the phone and actually being like, it's like sink or swim. It's either you use your voice or you get misgendered. So that being said, I just at work, hi, Park West Pharmacy, this is Gwen, and I just use my voice all the time. So
That's another thing that helps is just always having to use your voice and to be kind of conscious of it. That really
mhm.
helps. I find in a lot of conversations I feel like my voice is kind of slipping, getting deeper and things like that. But for things like this for the show where I'm on for an hour or two, I find it's kind of easier because I again staying conscious about it and I just been really happy with what that has done for it, giving me that wonderful practice.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And it's like, I have patients all the time who'll come in and it's like, oh, I just really want vocal surgery. I'm like, I'm not gonna lie. Do I still want vocal surgery? Sure, I do. I mean, it wouldn't be nice to just not have to consciously think about it. But really at this point, I have to really like consciously think about like my voice. I have to think about it getting as low as it was. The
Hmm.
only people who ever get to hear that, even almost getting that low, is my wife, and that's when I'm first getting up in the morning, and that's because I live in Arkansas, and the amount of mucus that comes out of me in the morning, it's like just trying to get it all out.
Yeah. Yeah, the morning's a little iffy. That's where it's rough. It's really hard to get the high voice in the morning, but I think that's for everybody. I It was really interesting because I started a lot of my transition on this show. I was I wasn't on HRT yet, and I really hadn't done a lot of work on my voice. I guess I just kind of started. So I went back and I was looking at the first episodes, and I'm like, wow, it already was like a lot deeper then. And then I stumbled across a recording from the year before, and it was like I can't even remember my voice being that deep. So kind of an interesting journey with that. Did we get another question? I don't think we did. But you had mentioned, going back to the questions and those things you get from transgender folks and trying to find that information. Talk a little bit um, um, about the work you're doing with the clinic to put together. You've got some other healthcare providers that are putting something together that you're a major part of.
Yeah, so I'll just talk about all my initiatives.
Okay.
So my first initiative with my pharmacy was like I want to make sure like HRT is a very powerful tool. It gets that person's secondary sex characteristics. It gets it can make you feel normal, and it's so important. So I'm like HRT should never be denied anyone because I mean you have like Walgreens, CVS trying to charge like people $30 to $40 for something that costs like $1 to $2. That's ridiculous. First
Hmm.
pharmacies would never do that. I mean, obviously, we want like decent money, like maybe 10, $12 for something, just make ends meet. But we're not here to take advantage of people. But for the most part, I'm like, so I created the True Self Initiative. So all our HRT medication, if it's not covered under insurance, it's either at a at cost um, way. So it's like you can get estradiol and spironolactone and whatever you want, even your testosterone. Like we do testosterone 1 ml vials for like $12 a piece. And you know what? All our injection supplies is for free. We get you hooked up with alcohol swabs. If you're afraid of needles, we'll do it for you. You just come in each week. We have tons of patients that come in. And it's great because it allows us to like visit and say hi and the camaraderie and making sure everyone's doing great. Because
Yeah.
that's my biggest goal is to make sure everyone's you're happy, you're on track, and all your questions are getting answered. We want to make sure you feel safe at our pharmacy and that we're open and we're welcoming. Plain and
Mhm.
simple.
And that's why I'm so excited to be able to start working with you here in the near future, because that's exactly the same goal that we have in the Transverse is, making sure that people throughout their transition have all the information and all the resources that they need, any support, and the actual services that we can provide in partnership. So it's just really great that you're doing all that work. I love
Oh,
the True Self initiative, and then you said you've got some other wonderful things that you're working on too.
right. And so we're doing a free clinic with Lucy's Place. Lucy's Place is a homeless shelter for young trans youth. And so we're basically with Lucy's Place. We got a provider on staff, Kim Hill, the one I said was up in Detroit, learning with Dr. Will Powers right now. With Lucy's Place staff with TIG and X, they're actually working on getting therapists in. We have other providers that are going to be there. It's a complete free clinic. Like you literally will go in there if you want to start on HRT, as long as you're like relatively healthy and Kim thinks it's okay because she's the practitioner. I'm not here to make judgment calls on her behalf,
Hmm.
but you'll get to start our HRT. If you have other health concerns, high blood pressure, diabetes, or whatever, guess what? You're going to get treated for that. We'll get you on. Also, the most important part of the whole clinic is to stop this endless cycle of uninsured and like unhealthy lifestyle of like I don't know where to go seek treatment. I don't know who to go to a therapist because I don't have insurance. I have no money. That
Hmm.
type of thing. Our goal is to get you with insurance through Arkansas Medicaid through our Arkansas Works. That way you have insurance, so you can actually go up to any provider and say, "I have insurance. I need to be seen." That's the way it's not even a question.
Yeah.
So it's nice to get someone on a better path of being healthy and actually getting their like concerns treated. And so also it's also nice to have an open and welcoming space where it's like, okay, if you want to start your journey, you can start it with us. And guess what? Afterwards, our goal is not to have you come back to the free clinic. Our goal is to have you set up with another healthcare provider who can get you as an established patient and you're good to go. And
Hmm.
if you have prescription needs that night, you'll leave with a free prescription. Free, plain and simple.
And how long and how often do you do the free clinics?
We're going to have it set up where it's going to be the first Friday of every month. If it looks like it's a huge success and it looks like there's an need capacity to increase it, we'll increase it to twice a month. So,
Nice. And is the your website the best place to get information about that for everyone out there?
oh yeah, I mean, you can actually Arkansas, like our Facebook page or my personal Facebook page. If you want to direct message me, Pinnacle Health Partners, which is Kim Hill or Lucy's Place, we'll get you answer all your questions you have and get you going. So.
Great.
And then finally, I guess the other third project I'm working on is we're actually working with the Arkansas Little Rock Black Pride to do a prep program to make sure like people who need prep or want it or have it available to them and they can get it.
Hmm.
So
For those that are in the audience that might not know what PrEP is, can you explain that a little bit?
yeah, prep is a pre-exposure prophylaxis for HRV or HIV. So basically, it's just like a once daily pill you take to help significantly decrease the risk of you contracting HIV. Whether if that's because you're a drug user, or if maybe you are dating and you're like still you haven't settled on one partner and you're just kind of figuring out who you want to be with, but you want to be safe. Obviously, you want to be safe because you don't want to contract HIV. That's horrible. And
Yeah.
long term, you don't know who other people have been with or what's going on. So, or if they even know. So, HIV just doesn't like you don't know. Just you have HIV after you contract it. That's not how it works. It takes a while to like actually set in. So,
Well, yeah, and it's just a wonderful thing that they have now, that there is that extra level of protection. We know the safety, the typical safety stuff in sex in general, but it's wonderful that there's that extra level and that you're able to help start providing that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't think there's such a stigma around it. A lot of pharmacies don't like to touch it, but it's just being safe. It's being
Hmm.
smart. So
Yeah, and you'd mentioned in the pre-interview that in Arkansas, you're one of the very few that is willing to distribute it and to work with it.
oh yeah, for sure. And also, I think we're like the only pharmacy in all the state of Arkansas that's probably as openly LGBTQ friendly and trans. So,
Hmm.
but it's kind of like it is what it is. There might be a pharmacy in Northwest Arkansas I don't know about,
Hmm.
but I'm not quite sure.
And so, what has that done for your business? Basically, the amount of patients you deal with, has it been ramping up? Have you seen a good curve?
Yeah, no, for sure. I am getting so many patients that actually truly want to use us because it's I don't know, it's kind of nice to actually get patients that are like want to support you and support your business and know that what you're doing is good work rather than just having, because my some of my patients before were like diehard old like fans of the former owner. And then it's like, okay, you're just kind of like the new owner that's going to take care of our needs. But they really didn't know like my goals or ambitions or like kind of what I stood for because obviously I was still like pre-transition and all that.
Hmm.
But I don't know, it's nice to actually build up my patient base, like the people who like trust me and know like where I'm going and what my goals are and like where I'm headed.
Hmm.
Like I only want to take care of so many people. It's not even funny. Like I have so many great ambitions and goals to expand care. It's it's going to be great. And
Yeah.
it's literally when I get patients to transfer in, it really kind of like it's nice because it's like the few people that are transphobic or aren't like agree with the LGBTQ way of life or anything like that. They're like, I'm like, go. We don't need you. I'm like, we have so many other patients that want to come and use us and take, that want to be taken care of. So
Hmm. Yeah, and Jesse says that you've addressed many patients' anxieties, everything from getting started, administrating injectable HRT and finding safe providers. It has been so special being a part of your patients' journeys, and I think that's so wonderful that you've got this and you've got the great ambitions, like I said, that seem to match exactly in line with what we're trying to do and our level of ambition as well. Um, what have you heard from your patients as far as who's come the farthest to see you so far?
oh, uh, I don't know. I really like. I have a lot of people in Northwest Arkansas that use us, which is like almost like a 4 to 5 hour drive. But honestly, it's like either it's because they drove down and they were using one of the providers in Central Arkansas, and that's just where they live, so they're just coming like for their initial or follow up appointment. But we do a lot of mailing, so mailing in the state of Arkansas is not an issue at all. And we're looking at sometime this summer to start looking at our licensing in other our surrounding states so we can
Mm,
grow our like circle. That way we can start mailing and taking care of patients in other states. So that's kind of like phase two of our like major outreach plan. My main goal right now is to get Arkansas locked down, make sure everything's taken care of prescription wise for Arkansas. The whole community's like knows we're a resource we can go to.
hmm.
If you have a question, I don't really care what it is, we can normally find an answer for it. If you don't need a provider that's in your area that or you're just wanting to start HRT or you just got some question and you're not quite sure, shoot it to us. I can normally find an answer.
Hmm.
So just FYI.
Well, that's something we hope to do very soon. I think we're actually probably within this week is to get you set up as one of our main providers within the Transverse on the Discord and make sure that people can contact you through there and ask questions. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Temp117 says, with how much work you're doing for the transgender community, how long do you think it'll be until the rest of the world starts to kind of accept trans people? What do you feel? Where do you feel we are? Where do you feel we're at with the tide shifting here?
Oh, I feel like we're coming into light more. Like I feel like the lesbian and gay and bi, that kind of they kind of had their coming out time and like their acceptance. Like I feel like that's a little bit more mainstream now. Like,
Yeah,
oh, maybe not like super accepting. Obviously, there's always going to be people who have their prejudices,
yeah.
but as for the trans community, I feel like it's kind of like educating. It's like your neighbors or people that you don't know that could be trans. They're just closeted because they're so scared. I mean, good Lord. I mean, I'm a perfect example. There was no one, I guarantee you, absolutely no one knew that I was trans at all. And I made very good sure that that was a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was even to the point of like goading my brother for so many times. It's really funny because my brother Jesse, Game Gourmet, he's a super awesome activist and he's very about people's rights and whatnot. I mean, he was down there marching with Black Lives Matters. That's my brother Jesse. Couldn't be more proud of him. But every time he brought up like a trans question or a trans issue, it was so tempting because I'm like, oh, I really want to talk about it. But I always played devil's advocate with him because I was always like, oh, the super like conservative, like probably people thought I would vote for Trump type person. Most definitely not. But it was always a lot of fun. So in a sense that I got to poke my brother Jesse a lot about it. So it's like poking a bear.
Well, I understand that when you're trying to determine who you can come out to and how easy it's going to be, it's nice to play the devil's advocate and try and really test the waters of, of that. I never thought of that, of kind of pushing and being like, well, but don't you think, like you said, playing devil's advocate and just trying to push the worst sort of thoughts out there and see how they respond.
Also, I think it's also like for me, it was a safety mechanism. It was like making sure that there was not a doubt in anyone's mind that I was trans. I'm like, no one needed to know that. No one needed to care. It's like that was my personal private life. No, I'm not here to share that with anyone. And I made sure everyone knew that, like maybe that wasn't even a possibility. Obviously not. So.
Yeah. So on that note, do you feel like or in your conversations with your wife, did she have any indication? Did she have any idea that it might be coming? That this might be what
After
was.
I came out, and at this point, she's like, oh, even like a couple of days ago, she's like, a lot of things make sense now. I'm like, oh, like what? She's like, well, it just makes sense. I mean, every video game you played, you always played as a female character. I mean, like you always asked me about like, how's everything going with my pregnancy and everything, and like as like step by step, like way more information that a husband should probably ever know. I mean, it's just stuff like that. It just
Hmm. Yeah, the little subtle clues the little breadcrumbs, we're not even sure we're leaving there.
yeah, pretty much.
Jesse adds on to the previous topic about the things you talked about, saying endless bathroom and rowling conversations.
Oh yes, very much. Like the route. So what's really funny about the J.K. Rowling stuff was like, but when I came, so Jesse was the third person I came out to,
Mm-hmm.
and that was just because obviously Jesse's like one of my most trusted confidants, and he's literally my like my other half to the pharmacy, and so it's like a couple of days before the whole JK thing started like blowing up. I'm like, oh, this might be a good like final like litmus test to be able to like see where he's at on everything before I like come out. And I forgot how it was. It's like I think it was um basically he had done some quick reading over it because in the morning he drinks his coffee and he does like some quick like reading and whatnot, but he also has kids running around. And so I was like, hey, well, tell me about this JK thing later that afternoon. He's like, yeah, I think I did some quick reading on it. I think I'm with her. I think I understand where she's coming from. I'm like, oh no, oh God. I'm like, oh really? Yeah, definitely on the Rollin train, the Trump train, right? And he's like, oh. I'm like, okay. That next morning, I was like, oh my God, I have to re-bring this up. I have to get some more like cemented stuff. So I brought it back up again. And
Dive deeper into this one a bit.
yeah, he's like, I did some more reading on that. No, I don't agree with what she's like. I'm like, thank you, thank God, God bless you. Like, okay, yeah. I mean, I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, it was fun.
Very nice. Well, I didn't even realize that we've been talking and having a good old time. I didn't realize how late it had gotten. We've already we've already surpassed to the 2 hour mark, which is surprising. Like the first hour seemed to go at a normal pace, and then now we've gone way over. So I don't see any more questions coming in from the audience. So I think with that, I'll probably let you go and get back to the rest of your night. Thank you everybody for coming tonight and asking all your questions. Let's see, is there anything else coming through? It's only 1 hour and 15 minutes. Do I not? I don't know how to read a clock. I don't know how
Yeah,
to
I
read a
think so.
clock.
Hour and
Okay.
17.
Oh yeah. So
Look,
it's okay. Okay. Well then it's going slower than I thought then. Oh, hey Sarah. Thank you so much for the follow. Even though I don't know how to use I use a clock apparently. See the problem is I'm in Texas right now, so the timeline is 2 hours off. I'm just out of my normal element, so I'll blame it on that. So we've got plenty of time to keep going. If anybody else has any other questions in the chat, um, you're a pretty big gamer, right, Gwen?
oh yeah, I used to be like super into games,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess since like transitioning and also like with work and everything else, like I've like Fortnite, it's pretty much like the only thing. It's funny that Fortnite's turned into like this big family gathering type thing. Like my mom and dad are playing it, my brother and his like family are playing it, like I'm playing it. I mean, it's like
Mm-hmm. And what are your favorite types of games to play then?
really RPGs, JRPGs. I like real time strategy in a sense when depending on the genre and the
Mm.
mechanics of it. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, my one of my all time favorite games is probably Final Fantasy VIII. So I know that's probably like a shocker to some people. Like, how can you like? It's either Final Fantasy IX or Final Fantasy VII. I'm like, no, Final Fantasy VIII was mine. Just FYI.
Yeah, I never really got into those. I had a roommate that played the heck out of those, but the appeal was never there for me. And then I played the Kingdom Hearts because of the Disney, because I'm a Disney nerd and I had to, the Disney tie-in. And it was just a little bit weird because, I never liked the turn-based sort of games. And that one was more real time, so I did enjoy it a lot. But it was weird, the story and the characters, and I didn't know that they were Final Fantasy, so it was an interesting experience for me. But now it's funny, now that I've gone through and played several of those games, seeing people playing Final Fantasy, I'm like, oh, I know them, and yeah, no, it's all starting to make more sense to me.
Oh yeah, and then also a huge anime fan. I love anime. So
Mm. Do you well, we always have the question that comes to the chat, and so I'll jump to it before Julie gets a chance to throw it in there. But Star Wars or Star Trek?
ooh. I mean, I'm probably going to say Star Wars just because that's kind of what we grew up in family wise. But I can support Star Trek. I mean,
Mm.
if I was a John Luke kind of girl, I suppose.
Let's see. Oh, Jeannie had asked Jesse what growing up with you was like. Let's see. I'll relay what he responded. Neither of you were excited. Neither of you really excelled at sports, um, but you're always games playing player one and player two.
Oh
Fantasy
yeah, for sure.
tabletop games, anime. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Anything you get your hands on. Rosa is on board with you as a massive Final Fantasy VIII fan, so you are not alone.
Thank you, Rosa. Oh my God. Also, Bioshock Infinite. Bioshock Infinite was actually probably one of my top favorite games.
Yeah, it was kind of weird for me because I played the Bioshocks and then I saw Bioshock Infinite and like the trailers for it. I'm like, okay, I liked Bioshock, but this clearly has nothing to do with that. So I'm like, huh. And I started it and I'm like, all right, this is a little weird and I really don't understand. But then of course you get to the end and you see all the tie-ins and everything and you start to put things together and you're like, oh damn, that was good. And so you pretty much have to go right back in and play it through again. I found that a lot with the BioShocks. Their playability is kind of crazy. It's a really long, involved game, and you get done and you're like, I have to go through that again because I now I understand the story and I need to dive deeper into it. Such a great series. Um, Sarah's saying Star Wars always. Thank you. I love having the Star Wars fans in the chat. Only thing I love more than Disney is Star Wars. Um, so for the tabletop games, what did y'all get into? Was it D&D or did you love something else?
So with like tabletop games, I don't know. I've pretty much played quite a bit. I mean, obviously D&D is kind of a go-to. But I've done Savage Worlds, I've done some Pathfinder, I've done What else have I done? I feel like I've done so many. One thing world I really haven't got much into was the Cthulhian stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, Call of Cthulhu, like lore and all that's awesome. But as for like actual gameplay, no, haven't done that. A lot of board games, a lot of group games, stuff like that. So, like, we're excited about going to Gen Con hopefully this year. Gen Con got canceled last year, which was kind of a bummer.
Hmm.
But me and Jesse were able to re-navigate and go to Seattle. It was supposed to be my coming out trip to him, but then I decided to come out to him like weeks before, and so actually I got to be. That was like the real first time I got to be like authentically me the whole time. That was really awesome.
Mr. Temp says, how about near automata?
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. Nier is one of my favorite games too.
Hmm.
It's definitely like top three, top five for sure. And I've already pre-ordered the next Nier game. I cannot wait for it to come out. I will probably actually take a vacation day to make sure that game gets played that day. So
Nice. Which of course means that Jesse has to work, right?
yes, yes, by all means.
Julie's on a roll today, trying to shame me for my cooking. She's asking who's the better cook, and I don't know how we would know that. She's also saying, "Can you get me bulk fire extinguishers?" Which I don't need because I just bought a fire extinguisher. Thank you very much. And I don't think that's a pharmacy supply sort of a thing. I mean, you need one for your pharmacy, I'm sure, but I don't know that you've got any kind of direct connections to fire extinguishers anyway. So, Julie, you're just being silly. um, Xenoblade. Mira says Xenoblade 2's Nia is her spirit animal.
Oh,
And where is Gen Con? Where is it
Gen
happening?
Con is in Indianapolis,
Hmm.
and last year got canceled because of COVID. So thank you, COVID. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Mira says she's still looking for a Nintendo friend to play Warframe with.
Warframe. Oh, no, I have no. I barely have time for Fortnite. When would I throw Warframe in?
Yeah, we were talking about that last night. It's probably going to be about a week before we get to get in on a game again with
Oh,
Fortnite.
yeah, no, this week because Jesse's, he's headed out to Branson the next few days.
Mm.
So I'm literally working Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday is like a brief respite, and then back to normal schedule next week. So
Mm. How dare you, Jesse? How dare you?
how dare you?
um, Jesse actually asked the question. Did you find comfort or an escape in playing the female game characters pre-transition? What was that? What did that do for you?
For sure. Like for instance, like Dark Souls is a good example. Like character always female in Dark Souls or Bloodborne. It was nice because it was always like a fashion Souls type thing. So I don't care if that thing gives me an armor of one. If it pairs well with these other pairs, like don't get me wrong, there has to be a balance there because I have to have some protection in Dark Souls.
Hmm.
But my character's gonna look good. I want to make sure she looks very nice. So I'm not saying that she's gonna be like, with hardly no clothes on, but I want her to look fashionable. So
Yeah. Well, that's the thing where I struggle is yes, I prefer obviously to play all the female characters. And in some games, like I really struggle because it's like there aren't any cute female characters that are dressed well. Like I'm just getting started in trying to play Apex Legends, and they have a couple female characters. I think I'm gonna go with Wraith. I think is the one because she's sort of the most of what I like. But at first I was kind of struggling. It's just like, oh, I don't really like her outfit. I don't really like her voice. That kind of a thing. So I find it kind of a struggle sometimes to find a character that I identify with and I like. That's why, yeah, I love Fortnite because I've got Psylocke as my character that I play with mainly, and she's amazing. I love her.
and even like in Overwatch during our Overwatch days, which
Hmm.
Overwatch was so fun during the day back in
Hmm.
the day. But like Mercy was my character. So
Is Dark
until she
Souls
got hurt,
or is Overwatch old already?
I felt like it is. I mean, in our sense, I'm like when it first came out, we were like Overwatch, 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 Overwatch. Like if you want me to like see me res a whole party and just bring back and go from us not looking like we're losing to winning, it was Mercy until they nerfed it. And it was horrible. It is so sad. But nonetheless, we're We've moved on.
Hmm. M. Devanim. I feel like I should remember what your real name is. I apologize. Asks facts of life or family ties. Do you have a preference of those? I think I'd struggle to think about that. I'll think about while you're answering.
I think I'm gonna go with facts of life, but no, for just not for any particular reason. I just think that's just probably the way I lean.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I would go family ties. I think I liked the Michael J. Fox and Justine Bateman interaction. Seem to remember, and then, like I thought the parents were fun, nerdy but fun. So we end up on opposite ends of that one. Jeannie says Family Ties has better writing. So there you go. I guess Family Ties wins. I just think it was amazing that Michael J. Fox actually um, they didn't want him to do both projects, but he actually did the Back to the Future while he was on Family Ties, just burning the candle at both ends. Somehow he managed to do both projects at the same time, just with a crazy schedule.
Oh,
Um, Jesse asks if you've come up with something for your first female cosplay. Are you going to do something at Gen Con?
I've been thinking about that recently. So Jesse bought me a Near costume, and so when I first put it on a long time ago, I was like, oh, I want it to look so good, but I felt like I'm not quite there yet. So, but I think I have not tried it on lately. I think I'm getting there. So I don't know. It'd be kind of nice to do some Near, but also maybe just I don't know. It'd be kind of nice to wear a yukata or a kimono, just something I don't know, something different.
Still working on it. Still work in progress. Thought there. I
But for
def.
Jesse normally comes up with the theme, and so I will gladly do whatever female counterpart theme he has in mind. So
Nice. Let's see. Julie asks, how did you get your hair to do that? And I know Madison had asked that or had commented about that before about being jealous of how you get the nice swoop over your eye.
like this, like
Mm-hmm.
that. Oh, I might. It really might just be the fact that I just do it so much, so that's just like how I like contorted my hair. But
Mm-hmm.
just with some like really like hardcore hairspray, like doing this and then and that way it just kind of does its thing.
Yeah, I like how it just naturally falls nice for you. When you shake it a little bit, you get some like kind of nice dropped curls in there, and I guess it must be the hairspray that holds them together and makes them nice and thick. I get a little too frizzy.
Oh, like I am like my hair. I'm like, thank God. For a while it was like, it comes because I'm like, oh, okay, it's past my eyes, it's
Mm-hmm.
past my nose, like it's touching my upper lip. Now I'm to the point where it's like when I'm eating, it like goes right into my mouth. I'm like, okay, I'm just let's get it to the chin or a little bit further so it gets out of my mouth so I can stop eating.
Yeah, it's so
But no,
funny those levels that it gets to that you have to get through.
I know, and it's finally like all one length too, because there's a while Beth was like, all right, when I have to chop the back off because we don't want you to get a mullet, it needs to be. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So now it's all like bob length, all the same level. So now when it can grow, it can just be, we're all good. So
Yeah, it's so funny looking back at it now because you know I wanted long hair and nothing else would satisfy me. I needed the long hair and that was all I wanted. So when it was anything short of long, I didn't like it. And I wasn't happy with any of the hairstyles I came up with or whatever. And then it got super long and I was looking back at old photos recently and I'm like, when it was, about your length, maybe a little bit longer, I was like, oh, that was super cute. Why did I hate that so much? And it's just because that wasn't what I was hoping for. It's kind of funny. And then so I got it down to mid back, probably like 2 inches below the bra strap, and you get about there. And every time you sit back in a chair, you can't move your head because it's stuck. It's stuck behind your back, and then it gets caught in your armpit all the time, sort of like what you're having now with your mouth. So Yeah, there are fun levels you get through with growing your hair out. And I went to a friend and he cut it, and I super love the length now, and it's perfect, and I can do lots of stuff with it. And I'm like, okay, finally found it. Went through the whole thing. Now I finally got the right length.
Oh, can't wait.
Now, Rosa's mentioned that the female cosplay she wants to do for her first, it will be Katra from the new She-Ra series. And Mira comments that she's voiced by AJ from the Disney Channel, um, Allie and AJ. Don't know it. Jeannie says that she wants to be Gwen when she grows up.
Oh, I want to be Jenny when I grow up.
Jeannie's pretty
Which, by
rad.
the
I
way,
love her.
Jenny, I got multiple comments from other people that saying Jenny's little her like testimony at the Capitol was excellent. She did an excellent, like a fantastic job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knew she would. I knew she would. She's an amazing voice and an amazing speaker for things like that. What was your experience with that? She kind of felt that everybody's minds were made there, and so it was kind of a waste of time. Not a waste of time, but it was just like kind of bumping your head against a big rock. What was your perspective on it, and what did you see?
I really feel like that is what it is. I mean, you have elections coming up, so people are trying to like garner support and whatnot for, you know, it's it's fear mongering. It's using uneducated like people and saying you need to be fear this. This is happening when it's not happening at all, and it's like because you're just trying to gather and rally your own votes and your own like support, and it's hurting people. I mean, we've even you had one senator who even said that he's a conservative, and he's like, we're just wasting money. Like, he's like, all this stuff that they're pushing through real quick just to try to get it done and just get votes and yada yada yada, get people like their do right by their constituents.
Mm-hmm.
It's a it's just going to get overturned later. It's going to get tied up in court because it's going to get sued, and then it's going to be found unconstitutional, and yada yada yada. I mean, I'm not getting too like I'm upset about it, but I'm not going to be like I'm not so upset about it where I'm like I just feel like I can't function as an individual because it is wrong. It's going to get sued. It's going to get tied up in court. And then after when it gets tied up in court, hopefully with the federal legislation, I mean, even the White House said all these anti-trans bills that they're passing is against the law. I mean, so it's just a matter of time that it just gets caught, catches up. And at least we have a federal administration that can trump state administration right now.
Mm. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm very much about crossing bridges when we get to them. Yeah, the bridge that is being formulated in Arkansas sucks, but I'm not there yet. We're not to the point where it's like, okay, we have to cross this bridge or look for a different bridge to cross. So,
Mm. Do you feel like this is something that's going to be an ongoing issue? I know we kind of asked, we talked earlier about where the tide is swinging now, but do you think this is kind of going to be an ongoing issue, or do you think it's sort of like a last ditch effort by some of these really hardcore conservatives, hardcore, like anti everyone, um, the old white men kind of a thing?
yeah, so I think right now it's just like we're the easiest You know what's sad is about it is like we're the easiest population to target. It's because we're the most sensitive. We're the most like I wouldn't say unstable, but I mean a lot of people. I mean, good lord, like I said, Mike. As soon as I came out, you would never thought about it. My confidence level was, like I said, fractured, completely broken. I mean, it would have been very easy for someone to manipulate me or get me really sad and depressed if I didn't have such a strong support system.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, so it's sad that they're targeting such a population that just has such a high risk of anxiety and depression and suicide. And that's because it's just like leave us alone, give us the support we need and the resources we need to be able to make sure we can function and exist. But you don't want to do that, so
Yeah, yeah, we are easy targets in a lot of ways because of the internal struggle and stress that we all go through in ourselves.
and like I said, when people think trans, like the uneducated people, they think drag or they think Caitlyn Jenner, and I feel like those are two horrible, you know, things to just go automatically go to, because that's just not what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, we're fighting against a lot of misinformation again, and like I said, there's just it's just such a vulnerable population because the main thing that we go through is the internal struggle, the fears that we have about coming out, what we'll lose, what people will think about us. So yeah, just shooting ducks in a or fish in a barrel, shooting ducks in a barrel. Don't shoot ducks; it's not nice. I love ducks. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Um, Jesse says it's really tough when Sarah Huckabee Sanders or Leslie Rutledge is our future in Arkansas. Unfortunately, the grassroots solidarity we see on a daily basis within the community and its allies continues to give us hope. So
Oh
it's nice
yeah,
to
for
see that
sure.
there's.
I mean, and that's kind of like my goal is like you. I feel like you had all these resources and you have all these groups that are working really hard in Arkansas to make sure people have the resources and everything they needed to them. But it's getting connected to those resources or knowing where they're at or finally getting these groups together to work with one another to be able to like even provide even greater services. That's so important. And
Mhm.
that's kind of like what my goal is hoping to do is be like the source. It's like you need something, call us, email us, send a chat. I don't care. Send up a smoke signal. Carrier pigeons, nice. That's fine. Singing telegram. Come to us and let us make sure we can get you what you need to get going. That's all.
Mhm.
And then also, it's like connecting these providers. It's like, let's get things going. It's like, it's kind of hard for one person to do one thing all by themselves. Doing a free clinic, you could have a provider providing a free clinic by themselves, but doing the advertising, the community outreach, or providing ancillary services or providing pharmacy services, if you can provide all of those together, you can have such a greater outcome and touch and have so much better success. So,
Oh, yeah. Oh, my finger's slipping there on which screen we were supposed to be on. Yeah. Um, well, it's good to see that, there are so many people out there like you that are starting to kind of make that push and push back against what's going on um, from a lot of the political people and a lot of the cowards out there that are just doing things to, like I said, get that political clout, just to get another vote, to get um, some other legislation passed through, or to, um, yeah, there was one piece I guess that was coming through in your legislation, but that they specifically removed transgender protections to ensure that it went through. So,
oh yeah, I forgot. What was that legislation? I can't remember off the top of my head. I know exactly what I know what you're talking about though.
mm,
So yes.
but yeah, it's
Uh,
nice that we have, groups like the Transverse and what you're doing and the clinics that are starting to do something bigger, more public, focusing on the community and giving them a space, but then also, helping to do a lot of education and things like that. And I think that, the first part, going back to that, is making sure that the people in the community feel safe, have their resources, and feel confident in themselves and can advocate for themselves with that. So, hey Emily, how you doing? Let's see what else is coming through. Oh, Jeannie says it was a hate crimes bill. Good night, Julie. Thank you so much for coming. Hmm. Yeah. M Divinim, you got to give me something else in the chat. Remind me what I should call you. I'm struggling with that username. The trans community, but they say the trans community needs to stand together to support each other and protect our civil rights. And like I said, I think it starts with that, where we provide services and provide the support and the family and the confidence then for people to be able to do that, to feel comfortable standing up for themselves and for each other. Thanks for adding that, Mira. Anybody else in the chat have any other questions for Gwen? Now that we're actually sort of approaching the real 2 hour mark?
So I actually lower my tea a little bit differently than other people lower their tea.
What's that?
So I lower my testosterone differently than other people do.
And how do you accomplish that?
So there's multiple drugs that actually can lower your testosterone. Obviously, in the states, spironolactone is considered one of the bigger players. It's because I don't really know the reason because I think maybe it just was like the first drug that people started working on. Other countries use bicalutamide, or actually, there's another drug that slipped my mind. But bicalutamide is actually another drug that you can lower your T, but it's still a tablet. I actually lower my T through an injection called Firmagon. It's actually a gonadotropin receptor antagonist. So it basically tells my brain not to produce testosterone in a sense, the long story short. And it's actually a once monthly injection that I do in my stomach.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah,
how does that compare cost wise with something like Spiro?
it's quite expensive.
Okay.
Yeah, no, so it's if you can get your insurance to cover it, it might be better. The problem is it's only we're actually written like oh my god, it's only indicated for advanced prostate cancer, but it works by lowering testosterone. So that way, it's if it's a hormone-induced cancer, that way your prostate's not like feeding off testosterone to like continue to grow cancer in a
Hmm.
sense. So yeah, it's like a $500 injection. I get it, but
Wow.
I don't know. For me, it's like I don't have to take Spiro, so I don't have to worry about the diuretic effects or anything. Obviously, I own a pharmacy, so it's like a little bit more accessible to me. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It's just interesting because it's a different way. Now, I will say there's a probably 75% chance after I do that injection that I feel like I have like death and dying flu-like symptoms for like almost 24 hours. Just FYI. So,
Okay. So pluses and minuses. All right. All right.
but it does get my testosterone down. Like I think the last time it measured at a 22. So,
Oh, wow. I need to get another blood test. It's been a while since I've had a follow up on that. I had one, and the numbers were, I think they're both like the 300s, so they were needed some adjusting there. And my endo did adjust them, but I haven't been able to go back and get a follow up blood test to see where it leveled out. Um, Mr. Temp asks, what was your role model in video games or anime? Like, what was kind of your favorite female character to look after?
oh, is that's a hard one.
This is a hard hitting interview. We hit with the really difficult questions a lot of the time.
That's what I'm thinking. It's making me think. I don't. I'm trying to think about like. I'm thinking. I'm trying to think about if any of my major animes actually had like a female protagonist. Because I mean, all of them are like okay. I mean, as for Full Metal Alchemist, you had Edward and Alphonse Elric, but you had Winry. Winry was great, but did you get to see Winry as much as Alphon or Edward? Of course not. But it doesn't mean I don't like Winry. I mean, the latest anime that I'm really like just falling in love with is Made in Abyss. Made in Abyss is such a beautiful anime. The animation style is a little bit different, but it's so pretty and it's so deep and it's so sad. Oh my god!
Hmm.
And it has three movies that are coming out. One it's already come out with, and then it has two movies that are coming out with at the end of April. That it's going to help to like finish out the series for the anime, and it's just like, oh my god, I cannot wait. I'm like, it's oh, I just can't wait. It's so
Hmm.
good.
Nice.
Let's see. Um,
Midvini says, I know I'm a geek, but I like Oceanhorn too. Only criticism is you can't choose your avatar. Is that another game?
I, I don't know.
And Miriam, it's Maria McNeil. Why am I saying Miriam? Sorry. Should have
Poor
corrected me. You
Maria.
should have gotta smack me on those. Maria McNeil says, have you played Sims? Do you like that game? Because you can create the world, create your characters, that whole deal.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. So I played a lot of Sims back, especially back in high school and undergrad. It was a lot easier, in even like Sim City before then. But as for like the normal Sims, yeah, making the house, whatnot, get them trapped in a room, kind of like that Black Mirror horror that it's like you're putting them through. Like hopefully they're not like real sentient people. God. But yeah, for sure. Oh, that was a trippy thing. Now let's talk about Black Mirror. So there are like a few two things that like pre-transition like hit way too close to home.
Hmm.
There was an episode of Black Mirror that was in the latest season that came out that was just like, oh, I can only watch this episode once. I don't think I can watch this again. It's like way too like hits way too close.
Huh.
And it was the episode where they're like doing martial arts, but they get into their like characters' bodies, but one of them like gets transported into like a girl's body, and he's like, I don't know. It's just like that would have been awesome, but like, oh my god, that's too close.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, looking back, I had a lot of those that really made me feel weird. Uh, things that I came across, like just stories that were sort of erotic stories or things like this. I had always thought that I'd come across one erotic story that was about kind of, gender play or whatever, and that had been what sort of, made me this way, made me into cross-dressing and eventually led to being trans. And it just took me a really long time to realize that no, those things appealed to me because I was trans, and that's what I kind of wanted deep down. So those stories appealed to me on that level. There was one, um, what was the one with the Crypt Keeper? Tales from the Crypt, where a brain surgeon had caught his wife cheating on him with some big burly cable guy, and one of the things they said was, "Oh, I love your body." They said that to each other, so he knocked him out and actually switched their heads on their bodies, and there was just something about that like really kind of got me hot and bothered, and I was just like, well,
I know
that's weird.
exactly what episode you're talking about. No, exactly. Because he started off with like just certain body parts. It wasn't the full body. And then eventually he gets up to the whole body, but then he ends up dying because for whatever reason. And then the other guy who had it got to keep all his money and stuff. It was like I remember that exact episode because he'd be walking on the beach, but they would be like so grossed out by him still because it's like he wasn't like fully like the beach guy. So no, and it's like I don't know. I think it's really funny, like because pretty much any like episode or anything that ever dealt with like gender bending or like body switching or anything like that, I'm like those episodes stuck out to me, and I can pretty much tell you what they are versus like any other episode.
Hmm. Yeah, and just looking back, it was weird because it's like, oh, like yeah, it was just confusing why those were appealing to you, and of course you thought that there was something wrong or you're kind of deviant or whatever because it got you excited in a way. Like, I don't know about, I shouldn't speak for you or for anybody else in the audience, but like I got kind of physically turned on by that sort of stuff, and I was just really confused by that, and it was really troubling for me for a very long time. And then it took me a long while to unpack again which was the chicken and the egg, which one was leading the other one. It was the fact that it was who I am, and that's why those stories appealed to me. And then to come to grips and acceptance that it was a turn on for me because that's it was such a deep core thing that I really wanted, that it was exciting to me. And I don't know, physiology is weird.
Oh, for sure.
Let's see. So Jesse made the comment. Trying to drop in a hard hitting question here.
Mhm.
Compare and contrast early life transition versus established family career later in life transition. I know that's hard because you only have one perspective, for yourself. But have you talked to a lot of people? Do you have any perspective on kind of what the difference is there with um, doing it before you have when you're younger and before you have an established family and all that versus what you did?
Uh, I feel like there's like pros and cons to each. If that's what like if we're talking about the concept of like pre-transition before we like even start like our lives versus like oh we're mid like 30 and thriving in a sense, and then we transition.
Hmm.
Pros and
Well,
cons. I mean, obviously, the earlier you transition, the better because I mean, in a sense, it's like you can try to like forego like 18 years of testosterone changes or 18 years of estradiol changes to your body, plain and simple. I mean, that really helps. And then also it allows you to like formulate all your connections, friends, and families and live like your authentic life the whole time. And so it's like, you're not having to like like now in 30, it's like, oh, my whole social construct is about to like fully change and deconstruct and reconstruct, which somehow I've done in almost a full year, which is fantastic, but that's challenging for sure. So, like, especially with your social, your business, your marriage, and your family life, those are a lot of pillars to like deconstruct and rebuild real quick to make sure everything's like sound and secure versus like, oh, when you like starting to go to college or anything, it's like, maybe I could just take a semester off real quick, get things kind of like settled out, start on some HRT, get things going, and just kind of go from there.
Hmm.
So I don't know.
Well, I think that's a common thing, for people that have gone through their transition later in life to think, oh, I wonder, I wish I'd been able to transition earlier, or those sorts of things. But for the most part, most people I've talked to say that they wouldn't change anything because the things they got in life and where they got to, you met your wife and you married and all that kind of stuff, and of course the kids are the big game changer in that nobody would think they'd want to go and transition before that because they love the fact that they have their kids. But I find that that's kind of the way most people are, is like, yeah, it would have been nice to do it earlier, but I don't know if I could have been ready. And it was sort of at the right time for me. And I think that's a pretty true statement. It's important for us to transition when we're ready to, and when it's the right thing for us.
Oh, for sure. Because even like at 30, the pros are it's like, okay, I have a stable job, a stable like career. I've built a good family structure. I have a good social group of friends that, if you done right. And like, if I want to get laser hair removal, I'm 30. I have money. I can go get laser hair removal. If
Hmm.
I want to look at surgeries, I can look at surgeries now. I mean, it's like I have a lot more resources available to me than definitely than I did when I was like 18 or 20 for
Yeah.
sure, or even anywhere in my 20s. So,
Yeah, and going back to that, having the support structure and the support of the family and friends, you've got a larger friend circle, and it's just easier to find those people that'll be supportive.
my thing is it's like if you already went through puberty and your voice dropped, at least from the male to female perspective, your voice dropped, your hips have already kind of like done kind of what they're supposed gonna do and stuff like that. I mean, the damage is almost kind of already done
Yeah.
in a sense. It's like at that point, it's like unless you absolutely just feel compelled to do it, like I said, make a plan, get your basic life goals in line, make sure you have your basic needs met before like trying to like force transitioning. I mean, if you can and it's easy, that's great, go for it. But making sure your basic needs are met before or it's going to make life so much easier. So,
Mm. All right. And with that, we're approaching the 2 hour mark. I think the questions coming in from the audience are slowing down again, and we can actually do a real end to the show. I hope Krissa caught the previous one and is able to edit that out. And yeah, just make me look better. That's what editing's all for, right? Well, everybody in the audience, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your questions. Gwen, this has been wonderful. I really enjoyed having you here. I hope you had a good time.
no, it was fun. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Now, just a reminder to everybody, up there on the top right, we do have that subscriber goal. If you subscribe to the channel, that helps us increase that bar there, obviously. But what is that for? I am building a droid that's a transgender droid. So I do the Disneyland, the 12-inch tall remote control droids. I'm doing one for the show, and if you subscribe, then you can use the points that you get from that to enter the drawing. You get 2 entries with that, and as you watch the show, you get more points, all the fun stuff. So if you hit exclamation point droid in the chat, you'll get the information for that, and you can go ahead and put in all your entries. I'm sure a lot of people have plenty of points for that by now, but yeah, go ahead and subscribe. Support the show. It helps us out a ton, and it gives you those extra points for entering that. And then I think we're going to do the drawing. Basically, I put a goal of 2 months from now on there, but we'll basically do it once we hit the goal. Again, Gwen, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on here and sharing your story. I think a lot of people in the chat appreciated it and got a lot of good information from it. And everybody in the chat, thank you for coming. We'll see you next week with Lacey Artemis as my guest. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Okay, and let's see. Did I not? I did not get a raid. Okay, I don't have permissions on that account. Let me try it again over here. False alarm. There we go. And now it's confusing as to whether or not it cuts out automatically now or what. But there we go.